Hello everyone and welcome to Season 7, Episode 37 of Pro Wrestling's Top 50. I'm your host Travis McNeil, and today we continue our countdown of the top 50 matches in Chikara history with match number 14 on our list, which is for the Chikara Grand Championship between the champion Juan Francisco de Coronado and the challenger Mr. Touchdown Mark Angelosetti from the Chikarasaurus Rex, a deadly secret event held on August the 11th of 2008. This to me is by far the best Chikara match after Chikara came back in 2014 following the time period where they were inactive. It's a match that I feel, maybe doesn't get a ton of hype because of the time period that it's in. It's a match that I watched at the time, thought was good, didn't really remember it much more than that, but it blew me away upon a rewatch. This is a big time title match. It is a long form title match. It is, in my humble opinion, maybe the best defense of the Chikara Grand Championship that there was. I've talked, a little bit at length about Juan's title reign being a real surprise to me for this project. It was a time period where, I was out of love with Chikara. I would check in, on the occasional match. But really watching it back, his title reign, I feel, was something special. And this was by far the best match of it all, and a really big moment. While Juan was champion, it felt like there were moments where, Chikara could have seized the opportunity and had the title change. The first one being against Mr. Touchdown a year prior in 2017, and then against Dasher Hatfield in their match at the season finale of 2017. Instead, Juan would hold on to that title another year. He would beat all of the best that Chikara had to offer, and he started on this crusade where he then wanted to be the first champion, to not only beat everybody on the roster and defend the title, but beat them all twice. And his first, person that would step up to the plate in that would be Mr. Touchdown. And this was finally the moment, where he would reign supreme and, sit on his throne, albeit very temporarily, as the top dog in Chikara. This match really has a feel that is different than a lot of Chikara matches and a lot of Chikara title matches. It's from a different era. This is 2018. My golden era of Chikara is that, 2005, 2006 time period. And you can just tell the influences are different. This feels like two guys that have, at this point, watched a lot of big time New Japan, title matches between Tanahashi and Okada and those guys. And, they want to do their own version of it in Chikara. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is a match that certainly calls for the length, it calls for the drama, it calls for the near falls. It all contributes to the story that they're trying to tell, and it works perfectly. But I definitely find those, similarities, and it may sound weird, two guys wrestling at the Chikara Wrestle Factory in front of 150 people, comparing them to Okada and Tanahashi. They have different wrestling styles, it's very different. But this truly feels like that type of match. Maybe it's just me. Maybe you'd completely disagree in watching this match, but I really feel like they were going for something similar to that with all of the history between the two. This match is a really tentative start. Neither guy wants to make a mistake. It's got really intense collar and elbow tie-ups. A lot of great counter sequences. They know each other so well. These guys have a lot of history. They had a rivalry several years before this where, Mr. Touchdown was trying to prove himself to his step-cousin-in-law, Dasher Hatfield, that he was no longer a cheater after, having cheated to help his team, what should have been achieve a victory in the challenge of the Immortals, but Dasher, ultimately withdrew his team once he found out about Mark and his loaded elbow pad. This led to Mark trying to prove himself to Dasher and Juan getting involved and trying to set up all of these scenarios where it would seem like Mark Angelosetti was still cheating. This would lead to a no disqualification match, which is really, really fun, well worth a watch, where Mark, does nothing nefarious throughout the match, gets bludgeoned all match long by, Juan, who uses the no disqualification stipulation, to his benefit, but ultimately ends up losing. Like I said, they would have their title match in 2017 that, at the time it felt like the wrong call, but Juan would win, and that would lead us here. So all of this history that they play off of with counters and near falls and a big, overbooked kind of stretch in the end, but really, really added to the overall story of the match. They, brawl on the floor here. We get like suplexes onto the bleachers, a lot of brutal stuff, a lot of really cool, unique offense too. Mark Angelosetti, I've talked at length about how I feel that he's someone that the wrestling business really missed the boat on. Great look, great charisma, great athletic ability. He's so strong. So it's all of these great, spine busters and big time power moves in this match. Juan is a really undersized guy, but he's got all of this great, chain together offense too. He does, a tornado reverse superplex, which is really cool. They do all these counters in and out of their finishers. They hit all of their big moves for two. Mark hits the colossal bomb and the flea flicker, and Juan gets the German suplex and, tries to get the Coronado clutch on and hits the tiger driver. And it leads, like I said, into this overbooked sequence near the end where we get a ref bump. And Juan Francisco starts to bring in all of the story throughout the lengthy rivalry between these two and all of these underhanded tactics that have allowed him to retain his title all throughout his title reign. He hits low blows and schoolboys with the tights pulled. He purposely hits the ref. He hits, he uses his flag that he would carry around with him. He hits Mark Angelosetti with the flag. And, Mark, to his credit, there's this great moment where he just begs on Juan, calling for more. We get, the Chikara staple where, all of the Technicos come out to try to rally, behind Mark, and it's all of these people that had previously lost to Juan through a lot of these nefarious tactics. So again, it really worked in here. I criticized that tactic before, in the match with Kimberly and Heidi Lovelace, where I feel like it felt forced. Here it didn't. Here it made sense. And, a lot of the heels come out to rally Juan. He had a lot of partnerships with a lot of the Rudos at that time too. So, we get this great atmosphere. The crowd is really into this match and, really hot. The Wrestle Factory, it's kind of weird because at the time I didn't like when Chikara started running, primarily out of their almost like their own kind of studio setting. It just, you didn't have these big crowds with all of the crowd heat. But, watching it back for this project, I, maybe didn't remember it as fondly as I should have. There was a lot of good matches there. The crowd, yes, they were small, but they were hot. They were invested in the characters, lots of kids, so it really worked. A really fun moment where, Juan kind of runs out of things to do. So he tries to, do the old Eddie Guerrero trick, pretend that he got hit with the belt. Mark, does the exact same thing. And something that I really liked is when the referee decides, just call it like a play on, both guys are out, we'll keep the match going. Juan immediately shoots up off the mat to start protesting, showing that, he was never actually hit with the belt, which was really, really good. Again, the near fall sequence here is just so good. It leads to this moment where Juan gets the Coronado clutch on Mark Angelosetti. He adds the body scissors, which was how he defeated him to retain the title. Mark, he's able to rally through, grab the ropes. Juan, in a moment of pure frustration, decides to, just go to some mount punches, go for the tiger driver once again. It gets countered into a new hold for Mark Angelosetti, the end zone submission move, I believe he called it. And that's enough to get Juan to tap and get him the title. I loved the story here. Back in their original title match, Juan had to put a new wrinkle because Mark was prepared for everything he could throw at him, and he added the body scissors to the Coronado clutch. Here, Mark was able to survive it, showing, he was a better athlete and, a harder fighter than he was in their previous match. And this time it was, Mr. Touchdown having to go to something, outside of his normal repertoire to put Juan away. And it was something Juan wasn't prepared for with the end zone. This should have been Mr. Touchdown's moment in the sun and led to a great reign. We talked about that a little bit, though. He would unfortunately, a month later, suffer a very serious leg injury at King of Trios. And that would lead to, the title reign of Dasher Hatfield, where he was the surrogate champion for Mark, had a number of successful title defenses, ultimately leading to Mark returning, being turned on by Dasher, and them having their ladder match at... can't even think of the name of the show, Once Upon something or other. I just talked about it the other day. But, it would lead to that great ladder match that they would have. and which would ultimately kind of be Mark's retirement match until, like I said in that video, he would have one more match, last year with Dasher Hatfield in Dasher's actual retirement match at an LVAC show, which I was super happy that happened. This match is so very, very good, though. It's just wrestled to such a high quality. It feels like a big moment. Two really great wrestlers that were the absolute stars of those later years of Chikara. Yes, Mr. Touchdown was in, before the whole restart. But, really he was somebody that the company would end up relying on through that period. And just an absolutely great hidden gem match that was so much better than I remembered it being, to the point that I consider it, one of, if not the best, Chikara Grand Championship matches of all time. This match you can watch, of course, on independentwrestling.tv. Subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so that you never miss a video. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Wrestling50. And please join me again next time as we continue to count down Pro Wrestling's Top 50.